Here's what I've learned about this whole Diddy trial. So, and we'll put it out there that no one's siding with Diddy, no one's giving any sympathy to Diddy. We all saw the video and some of the other things that have made it made the headlines, which a lot of it has been particularly, I mean, I would say almost true, just because it's been corroborated by other witnesses and also from text messages. The text messages are probably the most damning thing about the Diddy case. But just to see how it's being handled is probably where I have the biggest issue with it, though, mainly because of how they gave a deal to Cassie, and it comes to find out Cassie has been the one behind some of the freak offs. Cassie has been the one that instigated or started some of the freak offs. She's some of the witness testimony said that Cassie wasn't in no danger, or said there was, any, in danger or something like that. Like, witness testimony has been saying that Cassie has not been in trouble. Now, some other witness testimony says she has been in trouble, though, or people saw some Diddy do some DV things, but it's really, to me, it's more about, I mean, it's definitely a DV issue, not a RICO, not a trafficking. It's none of those things. It's just more of a DV thing, but that's not what Diddy is being charged with. And the mere fact that they gave Cassie a deal so she can be in this case, because she already got her money, and some would probably ask, why is she still doing it? It's not about justice. It's just because they gave her a deal, and she doesn't have to worry about any of the testimony coming back to haunt her. MC.
Yeah, one thing to note, Kid Cudi testified. He testified that Diddy allegedly, or someone sent by Diddy, broke into his property, ransacked a couple things, and burned his car all over Cassie, it seems. Mind you, Cassie was kind of dating him while he was still doing the freak off talk. This thing is all over the place, man. And like TR said, I think we can all admit Diddy's going down. The question is, how long is he going down, and
Yeah.
what is he going down for? At this point, he all he can do is do damage control. He's trying to prove that Cassie consented to a lot of this stuff and changed her position later. We talked about how some women believe they have adjustable consent after something happened. So that's what the defense is leaning on. It's not looking very good because they had hairstylists and makeup artists. They had a bunch of people testifying that they saw Diddy on multiple occasions uh, put hands on her. So he's going down no matter what. And that's kind of where things stand right now. The Kid Cudi thing is interesting because you essentially try to, what if he was in the car? Maybe they confirmed he wasn't there before they did that, but it sounded like Diddy's on some wild stuff. And then Kid Cudi goes and testifies later that Diddy entered his property again later on without his permission, just because he wanted to apologize. So he was trespassing once again. So yeah, Diddy wild out here, man. This is going
So,
to be
the funny
it's
thing
going
about
yeah.
the funny thing about the whole car thing is, they, during the testimony, the Diddy's lawyer had asked, like, did you know that the DNA evidence recovered came from a woman? And before he could answer, I think the prosecution objected to it, though. But that's a very good question, though. Was, if it came from a woman, then how do you know it was Diddy? Or are you assuming, because there's no surveillance, there's no picture showing Diddy had did something like this? And not that I think what Diddy would get his hands dirty. So, I mean, people are going to be questioning, like, did he, was he involved? Was he not involved? I got a better question. Kid Cudi, why are you messing with Cassie? And then also, Cassie, if you know Diddy is a crazed person, why are you messing with other men? That's why I don't understand here, because Cassie knew there were some things off with Diddy. And then Kid Cudi knew from the industry that there are some
Well, I have a
problems with
partial
Diddy.
answer to one of your questions, TR.
Wait, hold on. So, and so Cassie
Yeah, yeah.
knew, or I mean, sorry, Cuddy knew that. I mean, first of all, Cuddy knew that Diddy had messed with Cassie. Why are you messing with her? Why are you, like, getting involved with her? And I know they got the industry girls, but if some of the stuff that Diddy has been rumored to do, why are you messing with her? And then you end up with a blown up car, and then later in the testimony, they shake hands, is what he said. So he said a lot of crazy
Yep.
things, but none of it really tied back to Diddy as in evidence showing that he or Diddy was involved with his car getting blown up. All I gotta say is, like I said, Cassie, she's not the victim that people make her out to be when it comes to how she was running around in Hollywood. I think a lot of people would probably say that they've probably done similar things that Cassie's been doing, like talking to multiple guys. And no one's holding that against her. But if you know this person's a psychopath, why are you running around getting other men involved? You're putting them at risk is my whole thing. But jump in there.
Yeah, so when the defense got to cross-examine Kid Cudi, he admitted the dispute was over a romantic dispute over Cassie,
Yeah.
with both men ultimately shaking hands and agreeing that she misled them both into thinking that she was unattached and single. And at that point, it seems like that's when he decided, all right, I'm good on this. I'm gonna pull out and I'm gone. So the question we asked on the last episode was, why does she have a lawyer? And I believe that she has a lawyer because she took a deal, because she's going to spill it all, even with the stuff that she did, and she doesn't want anything to blow back on her. But I think the question we have to start asking now, we already know Diddy's in the wrong for all of this, right? But you said earlier that Cassie started all of this stuff. I wouldn't use the term started. I would say she enabled a lot of this. And my concern with this is it's turning into the battle of the sexes again, and it shouldn't be. But ultimately, a lot of the women are showing Cassie more grace than the men because they think in their mind that she's a victim and that somehow excuses her from everything else. But my question is this: if you're in a relationship and it's not open and you're creeping around and doing these things behind your guy's back, do you not automatically know that that's wrong? If you're recruiting other women and men to participate in these things, do you not know that that's wrong? Like, where does the grace begin and end? Because if we're being honest, she played a part in traumatizing other women and men too. She wasn't completely innocent here, but that's how she's going to walk away from this with extra money in her pocket and facing no jail time.
Yeah, there's also, I'm going to play a video. While we're doing that, I'm going to have there's another conversation to be had here regarding a not psychotherapist, a therapist or some sort. It's a very interesting conversation that came about. But when I find it, I'll jump it in there. But I'm gonna get this video ready to go. This is a video from Pierce Morgan, who's having a conversation with. Actually, I don't know who this guy is. Maybe they'll announce it. But Pierce Morgan he's been covering this too, not as extensively as other people. And I'll say this too: when it comes, like, I know there's a lot of places where you can go get the information, but some of these people are just reading some of the excerpts from. There's this one guy on Twitter who's called the Inner City Press, and he's been doing a really good job, but he doesn't put in the context. I mean, he's doing a lot of things, so I don't expect him to put the context in. You have to talk to the lawyer or listen to the YouTubers that are actually been in the court, and they're unbiased, because there's a few people that I've listened to that have been unbiased, and other people that have been biased, like they're leaning towards that, Diddy is 1,000% guilty and Cassie is 100% the victim in all of this. She had no accountability. So it's a wild conversation that men in general need to be aware of and what they're up against if they're ever, and no man is going to be in a situation, most regular men are not going to be in a situation like Diddy has got himself in. But if you do get in something, maybe just 1/4 of this, like where someone said or a woman said you abused her, or you're going through a custody hearing, they displayed the playbook on how they get you caught up, though. So once I find the transcript of this conversation, then I'll display it. But for now, we are going to play a video of Pierce Morgan having a conversation about another reason why this trial might be cooked. So, or at least it might be. Diddy could walk away from some of it, but I think he's going to get popped on a few things. So, let's get it going.
Depp and the Amber Heard case, and the former defense attorney who represented Suge Knight, Matthew Fletcher. And interestingly, gentlemen, I think you both completely disagree here. Matthew, let me start with you. You think this is a case of Diddy being railroaded and that the case is almost borderline farcical. Why do you say that?
Well, good morning. I can tell you why it's farcical to me is this idea of this mythical creature that can take ketamine and MDA and booze and then have sex for dozens of days on end and hours. That from a pharmacological standpoint, that's not possible. This idea that Cassie waits 10, 12 years to file a lawsuit and writes a book and then doesn't turn it over to a general publishing group, but sends it to Jay-Z's lawyer and says, by the way, we're going to put this out unless you pay us millions of dollars, bespeaks the real motives behind this. And let me just say this. Puff is not a good person. He's a bad woman beater and he's a coward. I know the guy.
You know,
everybody
hold on. You know, the funny thing is we all have to say that because these idiots will get out here and try to say, oh, you're defending Puff, blah, blah, blah. No one's defending Puff. We just have to say it out loud, though, so you idiots can look, so you can still have the conversation and so you can learn something, because there's a big conversation we had here of how the legal system, how it views men in a DV issue and how they go about it, though, because that's the thing that's getting lost in all of this. Like, I think you sent me something where it was related to Diddy, but the problem is that a lot of these people don't have the context on why some of these questions were asked and which way they're going, because you can steal the headline, but if you don't understand how they got there, men in general just are not going to be aware of how the justice system treats them when they have to show up in court.
Yeah, I've not seen anybody defend Diddy, by the way. Where's all this coming from?
Yeah, well, if you say Cassie is a victim, or Cassie had no or you remove any accountability from Cassie, that's where it starts coming in when the people are talking about Diddy. I'm like, you guys are idiots, because let this be your son, let this be somebody in your family, let this be someone you know. They're probably going to go down because Cassie is involved with this. So how much are we going to give her the whole Stockholm syndrome, or her setting up the dates and paying, or setting up the people dancing, as well as she's the one paying them as well too. Now it might be Diddy's money, but where's the Rico coming in? There's nothing about Rico involved with that stuff. I mean, unless you're exaggerating what Rico means, that's the only way that I think they could get away from it, though. But yeah, if you say anything about Cassie, people got a big problem. It's like same thing with Meg Thee Stallion, which we're gonna have a conversation about that later, but it's the same thing.
Hey, and so here's the other thing, especially for young men. This is why the body count / background checks conversation is important, because if you're attached to somebody who's crazy enough to stalk you or blow up your car or send some goons to enter your property, you might want to do some vetting and understand that, especially if she used to date somebody who might be affiliated a certain way, did some time. Like, men got to start taking better precautions to protect themselves too. That's another takeaway from all of this.
Yeah,
it sounds like Kid Cudi didn't do that.
Yeah, and MC, I don't know if you're still where you meet with young men. I forgot where you were doing that. That was whatever that's called, the charity work you're doing. The point is, this would probably be a very fascinating conversation to have with them, because it shows you that Diddy was a billionaire, still had problems with these women, and then Cassie, who was not a billionaire, was doing a lot of living pretty much a double life, where she was doing a lot of things with Diddy, and again, she was being abused in that relationship per some of the text messages and some of the witness testimony. Cassie was living a double life, though, so it was fun until it wasn't fun anymore. And then you have other men that were involved with Cassie, who she was cheating on with and going back to Diddy. So she was cheating on her now husband, she was cheating on Cudi, and there was somebody else that she was cheating on too as well. But yeah, people are going to have that conversation that, well, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is, if she knows she has a psycho husband or a boyfriend, why are you dealing with other men? You should not be dealing with other men. And she can say that, well, we were on a break or whatever the case is. Obviously, he didn't feel he was on a break, and same thing with Cudi. That's confirmation right there that she's definitely living a double life and trying to get the best of both worlds, apparently.
But this is not a case
it's
about
ain't a good
domestic
look. My
violence.
other
You can talk
question
about
is, where are the
What's up?
men in Cassie's law?
Yep, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll go next.
No,
Go,
no,
go
I was
ahead.
in the video.
Come back to that.
You good?
No, I was just going to call. No, and I was just calling out. Where are the men? Where the men at in her circle? Like, where's the protection at? Like, did anybody tell her like, hey, you got out? Or are you
Oh,
going back? Like, I'm really wondering that too because I always say this earlier. Like, who are you? Who's protecting you? That's something you need to ask yourself with every woman you're dealing with because it often dictates how she's going to react in situations like this when
yeah.
they come up.
Real quick, I'm glad you brought that up though. I found out. So funny thing, I didn't know Cassie was half black. Cassie is half Filipino and black. So there sure is a lot of black love going Cassie's way, and I ain't never heard Cassie, like I said, talk about her Filipino side. And that said, her mom and dad apparently they were getting paid off. Apparently they were enjoying all of the benefits that came along with Cassie, or really, offering up their daughter to be with Diddy. And there was a conversation. There was or in the trial hearing where she called Diddy Pop Pop. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's so weird, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because Pop Pop was her granddad and she was calling Diddy Pop Pop around them. So that's where her parents were. And Cassie has a brother. Yeah, I don't know what her brother looks like. I don't know what her dad looks like. And her mom did testify in the trial that some of the things that Diddy did to her, like he stole her phone from her, and then she called the police, try to find because Diddy had taken her phone. Which what happened to that story? Why didn't she just continue with that? Because she clearly knows that Diddy is a bad guy, but they all kept quiet. They all got paid. And so it's funny that everybody wants to go after Diddy, and I understand why they do. Why aren't you going after the parents? They knew what was going on, or they at least knew something was going on versus something that was what do you call it? Or they just turned a blind eye to it. So that's what I'm that's what I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
Oh hey,
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be a reoccurring. That seems to be a reoccurring theme with some of these parents, man.
Hold on, real quick. MC, I'm gonna mute and check the audio real quick because you know how that stuff is.
Yeah, right. And while TR is working that out again, everybody understands that Diddy did a lot of wrong things, and he's going to pay for it here. So before y'all come in here, coming for our heads, we're telling you that nobody's defending Diddy here. I do think that there's a conversation to be had on: is Cassie a victim? Is she an enabler, or is she both? Now, me personally, I think she's both. She is not completely innocent here. Now, most women, when you talk to them, they'll probably say the same thing. But I think most men, at least from what I've seen, are kind of asking those same questions. And both things can be true. She was probably victimized, but again, she
Yeah,
made other people victims too.
I see. I feel like most men are not asking. I feel like when it comes to men and asking this question about Cassie, they immediately go to Diddy. But that just tells me a lot of these men are just not being educated on what's going on. So it's
Emotional
weird.
responses.
Yeah, it's a weird conversation though. But unfortunately, if people don't want to listen, I ain't gonna force you to listen. We're just here to get the information out to you.
No doubt.
trauma bonding and any other psychological terms you want to lay on there. But the idea that Cassie had her own apartment, had her own money, had her own extra boyfriends or anything else does not speak to me as a traditional victim that we would see in a case of spousal abuse where this is ongoing. And I'll tell you this: when when the prosecution told everyone that P. Diddy urinated in her mouth, that was shocking.
Jeez.
When Daniel Phillip comes on and says, no, actually the person who urinated told me to urinate in her mouth was Cassie. And not only did she tell me that, she gave a tutorial and said, you want to do it slowly to make it last longer. At that point in time, the old adage is you can't win a trial with the first witness, but you can sure lose a trial. That lost me. because what you're talking about now is an allegation that this, and I'm going to use its Mandingo stereotype of this crazed black man who's being prosecuted by 5 white women who are saying this man's sexual needs are insatiable and they can have sex for hours and hours and never rest and always ejaculate. That's not true from a pharmacological standpoint. That is absurd. If this was in the 60s or 70s in Mississippi, I think people would be irate. I don't like Sean Combs. That video speaks for itself. The question is, why wasn't he prosecuted for that?
Yeah.
The question is, why?
Stop it right there. So I couldn't find the link or the screenshot of the transcripts, but essentially here I'll lay it like this. So the government brings in a therapist, and the therapist is one of 40 therapists in the state of New York. But this is a therapist that they call for a lot of DV issues. Now, witness, or I didn't realize like experts. I mean, I had to some degree I understand they got paid something, they were compensated. This particular person, she gets $600 for the per hour, or she gets $6,000 for the day for a court appearance. This is insane to me. That is a very lucrative thing for her when she gets $6,000 to be an expert witness for the government. And so I'm laying the foundation there because in her testimony, she was point blank asked. She had been in like 100 court cases. They asked her, of those court cases, how many of those were men? And she said none. She doesn't represent offenders. This is a therapist for the government who's trying to hang a RICO charge, a trafficking charge on Diddy, but she's talking about a DV issue, and she's never represented one man. She's always been a expert witness or expert therapist for the government. This is insane. This tells me how the government, and this is probably a state government thing as well too, that if you're a man, you're going to get railroaded when it comes to a DV issue. Now, MC, what when it comes to like when a woman puts a man on gets a protection order, what do you think the percentage is of that protection order being 100% pushed through?
If a woman places one on a man, I think
what are the odds of that? What is the odds? Clean up. What are the odds that protection order will be granted to that woman, no matter what the issue is? It doesn't matter what the issue is. I mean, or how they got there. Just what are the odds?
Probably greater than 90% is my guess.
99%.
Yeah,
so for the men out there, if you get a protection order on you, there's a 99% chance that a woman is going to be granted that protection order. And DDG is going through that with, who's that girl he's with? Is it Chloe Bailey or whatever her name is, or Haley Bailey?
I think you're right. It's one of them.
So
two sisters always get them mixed up.
So essentially, she can say anything, and she can have bruises. Either they're related to you or they're from a different situation. She can have those bruises on her and say you did those things. And then the protection order will be granted, though, because, and traditionally judges do this because I don't want to make it sound like judges are doing this because out of protection of the woman. They do it because they're playing the odds. So there's a good chance if they don't grant that, if they grant the protection order and the perpetrator does something, you're going to be held, and they're going to go after the judge. But if you don't grant the protection order, or they won't go after the judge, but if you don't grant the protection order and something happens to that woman, they're going to be calling for your head. You might lose your seat in the next election cycle. So it's not so much that they're trying to protect women. They don't want to look bad if something happens if they don't grant that protection order. So that's why they grant the protection order 99% of the time. And then when there's a DV issue, that's why they bring in these experts that are always leaning towards the woman. So again, for the men out there, this is very problematic because when you get swept up in the DV court issue, chances are you're probably going to lose unless you got some video evidence. And a girlfriend of the past, she can come back and say you assaulted her or whatever the case is, because the writing's been on the wall for quite some time where women have come back and said, hey, a man did XYZ to me, and everybody believes it. Like, I understand why women believe it because it's to their advantage to like build up this idea that women can't be monsters, women cannot be the abusers, fine, whatever. But for the men signing in on this, they're the biggest problems. Like, no, this isn't even about Diddy anymore. This is more about how men are co-signing on some of this craziness. You can talk all the mess you want about Diddy, but you got to start paying attention to how this is working out, though, because what happens in federal comes down to the state court. And then what happens on the state court is how a lot of y'all ninjas get tossed in the clink, get charges on your or get DV charges, have to go to all those classes because they have a whole system in place that tells you that, hey, you need to complete all of this. That's why all the fees, if you get caught up in the system, you got to pay some fees or whatever the case is. That's why it's so expensive. That's why they more or less will put you through or, rule against you so they can get those court costs. So it's not only like, it can go against you, like, legally, but also it becomes very expensive. And they don't go after women like they do with men. There's a different system set up for women than it is versus men. So we definitely have a gender-based, or I guess garnocracy, or however you say that word, when it comes to the way how women actually, let me switch this view. When it comes to like how men or women are treated in court. And again, this is happening in the Diddy trial. No one's even talking about this because people are not paying attention to the court proceedings. That's the issue here.
Yeah, you made a lot of points there. I'm not responding. But here's what I'll say though. The timeline of the men she was dating between Diddy and her current husband, there were some bodies in there, right? All men,
Yeah.
all smart enough to realize, hey, you got a whole lot going on. I'm not dealing with this. I'm out. And that's kind of how men got to start approaching situations like this, right? I keep saying this all the time. Ultimately, you have to give women what they want. If she don't want to deal with you no more, chuck the deuces and get on up out of there, bro. If she keep going back to the dude that's putting her through all this crazy stuff, pack your bags and keep it moving.
See,
like I said, if you really are the prize and you have options and you out here chasing your purpose and doing things for yourself, it's going to hurt for a little while, but just, heal up, get back out there, learn the lessons from it, do it again. Like, I don't understand why, and you and I both know men who stay through women throwing hands at them, women throwing items at them.
Yeah.
I've seen a woman get a man kicked out of his own house that he owned. Her name was on nothing, just over a phone call to the police. Like,
Yep.
I don't understand what, if you are with a woman and she's not compatible with your plan and your life and what you want to accomplish and what you want to do, don't even argue with her. Just like, hey, we tried it, it didn't work, I'm out. And keep it moving, man. Stop fighting over people that don't need to be fought over. Cassie clearly went back to Diddy multiple times while she was dating multiple men.
Yeah.
That's
So
the formula for you going to take the hit.
Yeah. So this is what I was talking about. So this guy is inner city press. He is in the courtroom. He is giving pretty much a good synopsis of what is going on. And this is one of the questions Dr. Hughes is the therapist that they brought in, the state brought in to discuss the DV part of this case, which again, he's not being charged for. But this is the prosecutor. What is emotional abuse? Putting down your partner, feeling like a piece of crap. What is financial dependence? The abuses controls housing, transportation, taking away her laptop, objection sustained. So you see where they're going. They're telling you this is putting your partner down as emotional abuse. Well, this is like a lot of relationships. So can a man say, hey, my woman is emotionally abusing me? Nope, because you're gonna get laughed at. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
You know what else emotional abuse is, TR? If you go and you go around other men and have them spray all of their fluids on you, you go home and you kiss your husband in the mouth and you just had all of that done. That's abuse too.
That's the Alex Fine situation, but I understand he's the white knight. So here's another one. Are you familiar with love bombing? The honeymoon phase. The abuser showers her with gifts and affection to get her back. See, you see how she's talking about this whole love bombing, and then she says her. This is where her bias is. This is where I don't understand with a lot of these when you bring in these therapists. Like, honestly, going to a therapist, I can tell you right now, though, they're probably going to be against you for the most part, because there's no way that, after seeing this, you're going to believe that a therapist is working for the betterment of the couple versus what she's doing to help the individual out, though. And I believe this person, I think she only worked 2 days a week. So if you're always in court cases, you're getting $6,000 a court appearance. Yeah, I guess I would work 2 days a week. So I'm trying to find the part where it comes out that she does not work with. Let's see if I can find it. If I can't find it, then we'll just go on to the next one.
While you're looking for that, I do want to call out. You talked about these therapists and these psychiatrists that they bring into these court sessions. It's not much more different than a divorce court situation, and sometimes they'll even do it when child support and visitation is being reviewed. It's a racket, man. They get paid all of this money off of the misery of other people, and most of the time they're very, very biased against the man. And this is why I do preach therapy. But for men, you got to work even harder to find the right therapist because they're going to present topics in such a way that is going to make you feel bad that you're a man.
Yeah.
We have to work extra hard to protect our mental health.
Yeah, I can't find it. So conversation for another day.